All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today we're tackling Sally Rooney's Normal People. Got a pretty insightful book review here and some notes to help us along.
Oh, interesting.
So whether you're thinking of picking it up, maybe prepping for book club, or just, love digging into the buzz,
hmm
by the end you'll have a solid handle on the book, the themes, all that.
Sounds good. The hype around this book is, well, it's something else, isn't it?
Absolutely. This reviewer even calls Rooney, get this, the first great millennial novelist.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
Bold, right. They mention Conversations with Friends, her debut, but Normal People feels like, boom, the spotlight.
Yeah, I'd agree. It really seems to have captured something, about the whole millennial experience.
For sure. There's this raw honesty about love, class, communication struggles.
Mm,
It's like she's holding up a mirror, but in a way anyone can relate to, even if you're not, a millennial yourself.
absolutely. So at the heart of it all, we've got Marianne and Connell.
Right? These two characters, their lives just get so intertwined.
Complicated, definitely. More than just quote-unquote normal, wouldn't you say?
Definitely not your average love story. The contrast between their backgrounds, though.
Yeah, that really jumps out at you. You've got Marianne from this wealthy family, but
There's a lot going on under the surface.
right. Dysfunction, unhappiness. And then you have Connell, raised by a single mom who, get this, actually works as a cleaner for Marianne's family.
Wow, talk about setting the stage for tension right off the bat.
Exactly. Power dynamics, unspoken things. You immediately sense there's a lot at play.
That whole dynamic, the on-again, off-again thing, that's what hooked me.
It's less about those typical romantic tropes and more about these deeper issues, right?
Totally. Their individual struggles with, well, everything. Identity, class, communication.
Right, and how those things keep impacting their connection. It makes you wonder if people from such different worlds can ever really, truly understand each other.
Or is there always going to be that gap? This theme of social class, it's really fascinating to me. It's not like in your face, but
And it's always there.
subtly shaping everything.
It's like she's peeling back those layers of, those unspoken hierarchies, like even in places that are supposed to be egalitarian.
They still exist.
Exactly. We see Connell at Trinity College, surrounded by all this wealth and privilege, and
And he just doesn't quite fit.
he earned his place, he's smart, but there's this sense of him constantly feeling like an outsider, almost like imposter syndrome.
Makes you think how often that kind of thing affects all of us, even if we don't realize it.
It's definitely something to consider.
And even Marianne, with all her family's money.
Right, all that privilege.
She's not immune to suffering.
Not at all. She's got her own demons, which I think really drives home the point that wealth doesn't equal happiness.
No, not at all.
It definitely challenges those ideas of, what a normal life is supposed to be. This book suggests everyone's dealing with something.
Right, your own unique set of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also this theme of, failing to communicate. The review really highlights how much tension comes from Marianne, and Connell just not.
Saying what they feel.
Yes, it's like they speak different emotional languages or something.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Marianne, with her family background, maybe she's afraid of being vulnerable, doesn't want to get hurt.
That makes sense.
And Connell, maybe he's dealing with social anxieties, making it hard to open up, worried about how his feelings would be perceived, especially by someone like Marianne.
Ooh, that's a good point. Have you ever experienced that kind of dynamic yourself?
Well, absolutely. I think most people have, to some degree.
It's incredibly frustrating to watch them dance around each other, holding back. I just want to yell, talk to each other.
Right. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, but I think Rooney is using that to explore something deeper.
Deeper about how we communicate.
Exactly. Or how we don't communicate. Vulnerability, emotional intelligence, how our past can make it hard to open up, even to people we care about, is all there.
So much packed into their interactions.
Definitely.
Beyond their relationship, though, it feels like both Marianne and Connell are on these separate journeys of, self-discovery.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to figure out who they are, where they fit.
In the world, yeah.
Marianne, with all that family turmoil, she's searching for validation, connection, but often in ways that aren't healthy.
Right, and it makes you think, how much of who we are is determined by the family we're born into? How much can we break free from those patterns?
Big questions, for sure.
And Connell, he's got this academic success, but he wrestles with feelings of inadequacy.
Interesting, right? Like he can't reconcile his achievements with his anxieties, disconnected between how others see him and how he sees himself.
I bet that resonates with a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. It speaks to those internal conflicts so many young people face. The pressure to succeed, to fit in, to figure out who you are amidst all the noise.
It's universal, really.
It is. These struggles, they transcend background.
Absolutely. And love, well, that's obviously central to the book. This review calls Rooney's take on it more complex than your typical love story.
Oh, it's definitely not all hearts and flowers.
No, not at all. It feels like she's intentionally exploring the darker side of love.
The pain, the dependency, even a bit of self-destruction, maybe.
Yeah, Marianne and Connell, they're constantly shifting between intense connection and then, like, pulling away.
Never quite finding that balance.
It blurs the lines, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between real affection and needing someone to fill a void.
That's a really great point. Makes you think, can we truly love someone else if we haven't learned to love ourselves first?
Wow.
Deep. Their relationship forces us to confront that, how our insecurities, our past, all of it impacts our ability to love and be loved.
So much to unpack there.
Definitely.
This review also mentions Rooney's writing style, which they describe as very minimalist. She even drops quotation marks, which is
Bold choice,
very unconventional.
but effective. It creates this immersive experience. You're almost inside their heads.
You know, I was wondering about that. Have you read anything else without quotation marks?
Not that I can recall.
Do you think it makes it harder to follow? Or does it actually enhance the experience?
Personally, I found it incredibly engaging. It makes you pay closer attention, read between the lines, become more active in the story.
Not just passively taking it in.
Right. It's like she's inviting us into a more intimate conversation with the characters.
Exactly. And because there's no clear separation between their thoughts and their spoken words, there's this immediacy, this raw emotionality that really pulls you in. It's like you're experiencing the story in real time right alongside them.
Wow, I like that. It's really making me want to pick this book up myself.
You should. It's definitely worth a read.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a technique that really makes you think, haven't seen that before.
for sure. And it speaks to her skill, squeezing so much meaning into such uh, minimal prose.
Absolutely. But, normal people, for all the praise, it has had its critics.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This review mentions some readers found the ending, well, not quite satisfying.
Yeah. Too open-ended. They wanted more closure on Marianne and Connell.
Yeah.
What happens next, all that.
I get that, wanting that resolution, but for me,
Interesting. How come?
well, life rarely ties things up in a neat bow, does it?
True enough. Things change. Relationships evolve.
Exactly. We're often left with more questions than answers. I think that open ending, it makes you really think about everything that came before.
Wrestle with it all.
Yeah, exactly. And it almost invites you to imagine your own conclusions, right? What happens after the book ends?
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Mm,
It keeps the story alive in your mind.
it does. And I think that's more honest,
Yeah.
to how life really works. We don't always get that closure, but the story's not over.
There's a certain beauty in that, the ambiguity.
Absolutely. But there was another critique mentioned in the review.
Oh, right. Some felt the whole on again, off again thing with their relationship.
It became a bit repetitive.
Yeah, like they kept falling into the same patterns, breaking up, getting back together.
That's a fair point. It can be frustrating to read, that push and pull,
But again, maybe that's just like realistic to how some relationships are.
especially those that start young and, carry into adulthood. We fall back into those patterns even when we know they're not the healthiest.
Like they're drawn to each other, but also scared of what that closeness might reveal.
Maybe. They test those boundaries, creating drama, but also, emotional depth.
It gets messy.
It does. And I think it reflects how hard it is to figure out relationships while you're still figuring out yourself.
Oh, that's a good point. They're both going through these huge personal changes throughout the book.
Their relationship becomes like a testing ground for all that growth.
So normal people isn't giving us this like romanticized version of love.
No, it's definitely more raw, more honest, showing what it means to truly connect with another person, flaws and all.
Messy, complicated, doesn't always end neatly.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so compelling, so thought-provoking. Challenges our assumptions about love, relationships, what it means to be normal when, well, most of us aren't.
Right. Speaking of impact, This book has really made waves, especially with that TV adaptation.
Oh yeah, the series. Have you seen it?
I have. It really captured the book, I thought.
They did a great job. The casting, the chemistry between the actors, you could really feel the complexity of Marianne and Connell's connection.
It definitely brought the story to a wider audience.
For sure. And it seems to have sparked a lot of conversation about these themes, right? Social class, communication, the struggles of love in today's world.
Definitely tapping into something universal.
It's not just a story about two people, it's a story about the human condition.
That's why it resonates with so many millennials, I think. It
Yeah.
speaks to their anxieties, their hopes.
Trying to make sense of the world with all its instability, the economic pressures.
Yeah, this generation came of age during so much change. Student debt, tough job market, uncertainty about the future.
A lot to grapple with.
And yet, amidst all that, there's still this yearning for connection, for something real.
Absolutely. And normal people, it acknowledges the struggles, but it also offers this glimmer of hope, wouldn't you say?
That even in a world that feels, I don't know, increasingly fragmented,
Right.
we can still find those meaningful connections.
It's possible. It's interesting, though, how a story set in a small Irish town has resonated so globally.
Yeah, Marianne and Connell, their journey, it seems to transcend those boundaries.
It's the authenticity of it all, I think, and the universality of the themes, love, loss, those challenges we all face in relationships.
Our own insecurities, things we're trying to overcome.
We see ourselves in them, you know?
That rawness, their vulnerability, it just makes them so relatable.
It's like Rooney's tapped into something fundamental about being human, something that goes beyond time and place.
The power of great storytelling right there.
Absolutely. It lets us connect, see ourselves in other stories, gain insights into our own lives, and that's something special.
It's amazing, right? Such a huge impact with such a, stripped down style.
It shows you how powerful observation can be. She picks up on these little things, almost insignificant, but
But they reveal so much.
about who we are, how we connect with the world.
Like she zoomed right in on those
Yeah.
tiny details of relationships and somehow...
To get this bigger picture of the human experience.
Exactly. We talked about Normal People as a millennial novel, but
Mhm.
do you think it speaks to other generations too?
Oh, for sure. It captures the millennial thing, yeah. But those themes, love, loss, ambition,
Searching for who you are.
that's universal. We all go through those awkward years, figuring out where we fit.
It's like those core human experiences, they don't have an age limit.
Exactly. First love, trying to find your place, looking back on choices you've made.
There's something in there for everyone, I think.
I agree. It's a book that stays with you.
Makes you think.
About the characters, their choices, your own life even.
Lots of self-reflection.
Definitely. It makes you question things.
Rudy's definitely become a, literary force. Makes you wonder what she'll write next.
I'm curious to see how her work evolves. She's not afraid to tackle tough topics, push the boundaries of how stories are told.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive here. Characters, themes, what the critics say, even her unique writing style.
It's been a great discussion. Really digging into a book like this gets you thinking.
Anyone listening who hasn't read Normal People or seen the show, highly recommend it. Thought-provoking, emotional, you won't forget it.
Whether it's the book or the series, get ready to be challenged, moved, maybe even changed a little by how powerful her storytelling is.
And of course, the real deep dive happens when you experience the source material yourself.
So something to think about as you go about your day.
How does Normal People reflect what we all worry about, what we all hope for? Not just millennials, but all of us.
Why are these characters with their struggles so relatable, no matter your age, where you come from?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.